Congressman Adam Schiff, California, chairs one of the committees that will get a chance to question Michael Cohen this week, the House Intelligence Committee, where Cohen will testify behind closed doors on Thursday. Congressman, it's good to have you. What are you expecting? What are you looking for tomorrow and on Thursday?
Well, we're certainly hoping in the testimony in both days to get the full facts from Michael Cohen. In our committee, we're of particular interest in the false statements that he made. Does it go beyond what he testified to in terms of the Moscow Trump Tower deal? Who was aware that he was going to come and testify falsely? Was he given encouragement to do so? Just the allegations surrounding the Trump Tower in Moscow are quite damning. And I find them, really when you sit back and you think that candidate Donald Trump, while running for president, while denying any business dealings with the Russians, was seeking to make the most lucrative deal of his life, something that would make him hundreds of millions of dollars, and seeking the Kremlin's help. That is deeply compromising, whether it is criminal or not. It is deeply compromising of the national security interests of the country. So we intend to explore that with him. We intend to explore issues of obstruction of justice and other light he can shed on the Russia investigation. So we have a lot of questions for Mr. Cohen.
I should note the prosecutors have already said in one of Cohen's criminal information filings that Cohen discussed the status and progress of that Moscow project with Individual One, which is the president, on more than 3 occasions. Cohen claimed to the committee, and he briefed family member of Individual One within the company about the project. Now that he has pleaded to lying about the specifics here, do you anticipate you will get the full story from him? Do you believe you can trust him as a credible witness?
I think he's made the decision to come clean, and it's interesting to watch the people around the president, and including the president, attack him for essentially making retribution for deciding to cooperate with authorities, to tell the truth. They would much prefer that he kept on lying, I suppose. But, as a former prosecutor who has dealt with witnesses that have been dishonest in the past, you always look for corroboration. You don't rely solely on the testimony. So one of the things that we'll be asking about when he makes different statements at odds with what he said earlier is what documentary evidence exists? What conversations did you have? Were they by phone? Were they in person? Who else was present? All the kind of foundational questions that allow you to do follow-up and corroborate what a witness has to say. That's going to be very important.
He finished today with this on the Senate intelligence side. How much interaction are there between your two committees? Obviously, the chairs and ranking members are both in the gang of 8. Do you talk to them after a day like today? Do you debrief at all?
There's certainly some interaction between the two committees, but they are 2 distinct investigations. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap with the scheduling of witnesses, but they are really quite separate investigations. And that is also true, by the way, of the special counsel's investigation, which brings up another very timely issue, and that is you have the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, suggesting that maybe they shouldn't share with Congress or the country the full report and what it has to say about people not indicted. Well, the Justice Department was sharing hundreds of thousands of pages of discovery in the Clinton email investigation, and we are not about to allow them to have some kind of a double standard, particularly when there is such intense public need to know. And in addition to that, if the department is to maintain a policy that you can't indict a sitting president, they cannot also say, and we're not going to share with Congress the evidence that would allow you to consider whether other remedies are necessary.
Right. One final follow-up here, and it goes to something you said earlier, and I want to just make sure I'm clear on this. You talked about his previous testimony, if anyone directed him to. Of course, there was this sort of wild 24 hours in which BuzzFeed wrote a story in which they said that the president had directed him explicitly to lie before Congress about the Moscow Tower project, its timeline. That was then knocked down by the special counsel's office. Do you intend to ask about that under oath?
We certainly do. We want to know why he made the false statements he did, what was the length and breadth of them, who was aware that he was going to testify to this. After all, there were public written copies of his testimony before he came in. Were those vetted with people in the White House or elsewhere? And absolutely. Now, we don't know how much of the BuzzFeed report was true or false, but there is a story there that we want to hear, and we want to hear the truth, and we'll certainly be asking about that.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff.